In lane 1, Ukraine. Lane 2, Italy. Lane 3, Israel. Lane 4, France. Lane 5, Spain. And lane 6, Mexico.
So, we're going to be treated to a great race over on the far side of the course between the great Ukrainian athlete, the world champion Roman Polyansky, the Paralympic champion too, and the new sensation Giacomo Perini. Polyansky beat Perini in the Varese World Cup, set a new world's best time in that competition. He was absolutely masterful. I expect Perini to be quicker, but well, we're looking at Shimel Daniel, the Israeli sculler there, rose out of the Daniel Rowing Centre in Tel Aviv, not named after him. There's Alexis Sanchez for France, 25 years of age, the Frenchman. And we just had a look at Perini there. And in lane 5, Javier Garcia Martinez. There is Polyansky, the back of him. And the Mexican is closest to this side. The familiar features of Miguel Munoz Malagon, 11th in the world last year, Paralympic sculler in Tokyo, the 37-year-old. Scored a 9th place finish in Tokyo, so you kind of think he's got to be there and thereabouts, and we'll get a real indication, guys, of what lane 5 and 6 have to offer in this event.
It looks as though the conditions are reasonably fair today. Yesterday we saw many races finishing lanes 1 to 6 across, or placings 1 to 6 across lanes 1 to 6, indicating that although the fastest athletes were over in the far lanes, that there maybe was some kind of advantage. But a very fast start here from this side of the course. We're right here with Giacomo Perini of Italy in lane 2, the sensation who burst onto the scene last year with a World Cup win, I think at his first international race.
Yeah, that's right. We saw him racing at Poznan, and then he went on to the European Championships where, yeah, the Italian sculler picked up the gold medal at those Euros in Munich. But here we see a fast start here from Alexis Sanchez and a much more conservative one from Polyansky.
Well, Polyansky does go off the start slow, and Perini always goes out quickly. So that's just how they race. Polyansky does come back in the second half of the course. I kind of think that Perini, the Italian sculler, who is over there on the far side as we look at the Frenchman there, is going to be quicker than he was in Varese.
Yeah, what gives you that feeling, Martin?
Well, I thought on his home, course in Varese, I expected him to be a little closer to Polyansky. I think that will have really given him some motivation, that defeat on his home lake, to go away and do some real training and build his speed up. So I just got a feeling that it's going to be tougher for Polyansky to get ahead of Perini.
This is a great start for lane 4, Alexis Sanchez from France. He's preparing for a home Paralympic Games next year, and I think a really great start and a really great effort to get himself into the race. He would know that the challenges really are going to be off to his left-hand side, Polyansky, Perini and Daniel. So I think this is a great way for him to attack the races, to put himself in it early to see if he can try and get into qualifying position, because it really is 4 boats here going for 3 spots into the A final.
Yeah, great point. 3 boats going for 3 slots into the A final and guaranteeing Paris selection. And yeah, very good start from Sanchez here. He's at 36 strokes a minute. Getting the maximum length he can out of each stroke. And I guess he's going to be thinking it's Shimel Daniel that he needs to keep behind him, the more experienced man.
Yeah, Sanchez is at university in Marseille in the south of France, and he has really focused this task of getting to the Paras in France. We haven't seen too much of Sanchez in terms of his form. He certainly wasn't at the World Championships last year, and it's quite unusual, isn't it, guys, for somebody new in the competition to be up that high?
Yeah, great to see new talent coming into it. We talked about the arrival of Giacomo Perini last year. And just interesting the way this second 500 is shaping up. The Polyansky, as you said, not necessarily the quickest away, but how he's eased his way in now. And here we see 4 crews in a line through 600 metres, but now coming out towards 700. Those 2 in lanes 1 and 2 are getting ahead.
So you can see that we have 4 athletes here who are very different in terms of their impairments, and that then affects the way that each of them are. You can see Polyansky, he's got a much shorter stroke, but he's incredibly heavily geared. He's super, super strong, and he's known for being incredibly strong across the field. So that's why he was a bit slower in the first quarter of the race, but you can see that incredible power that he has really carried him through into the lead in this second 500.
Yeah, really powers it through the middle of that stroke, doesn't he? So strong in his arms, so strong in his body, as opposed to, like you say, Perini, the Italian, who we see looks like he gets a fair amount more body lean, but he allows those blades to get loose at the finish, and he doesn't necessarily hold it in and just really press out that final bit of the stroke.
Yeah, it's really interesting, Perini. You can see those blades, they're kind of whooshing out. It's quite a firm finish. It's slightly on the short side, but it's very powerful on the way through. Polyansky with those traditional black gloves that he always wear. Former canoeist, and he came into para rowing because para canoeing, I don't believe, is in the Paralympics, and he's never looked back since he made the transition.
And coming through the 1,000-metre mark, it is Polyansky, the Paralympic champion, the world champion, with a canvas over last year's silver medalist at the World Championships, Perini, in his debut season. So these two really establishing a strong lead over the rest of the field. But the interesting fight is going to be happening behind them for that third qualifying position into the A final between Daniel and Sanchez.
Yeah, you're right. Daniel, as we see from Israel, has eased ahead of Sanchez. You just see it now in that yellow Empaka boat ahead of the Felipe of Sanchez, and it's now out to about a boat length. So looking solid in that qualifying position. I don't know if this is down to the conditions that we've got this split. We would have expected it. These are pretty much how you'd have picked it. That Polyansky over there, the Rio champion, the Tokyo champion, does have that small lead over the Italian Perini.
I kind of expected Perini to be in front, you know, pretty much through the third quarter, and Polyansky to come through him at the end. It's impressive that Perini is hanging on to him. I mean, Polyansky is clearly on a great form, and we've seen him in the heat. We saw him obviously in Varese with that world's best time. Schimmel Daniel, yeah, strong in that third place position, and he's not medalled this year in either Varese or the Europeans, but he is a finalist in the Olympics where he finished 6th in Tokyo. So I guess in terms of racing, this is going to the form book. The French sculler, after that fast start, dropped off, but there is a chance, isn't there, in the B final of the PR1 men's single sculls, because I think it's top 7 that qualify.
Yeah, I think it's top 7 as well that qualify. And interesting to see Perini, Martin, has made a little bit of a move here now, as you were suggesting, and has closed that gap back up now, has made a big move in this third quarter.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I haven't seen that race profile, but I think that defeat in Varese has really stung the Italian. He loves the sport. He loves rowing because it allows him to transform the limits of his impairment into an opportunity to take his life in hand and constantly improve himself, which he's doing now. He's put his bows ahead of Perini. And, you know, we don't know what conditions are going to be like for the final, but, you know, it's important, I think, to get a good lane in that final. And if they are reallocated and Perini gets either lane 1 or 2 and Polyansky's in 3 or 4, you know, that could be material to the result.
Yeah, that's right, Martin. It's, what are we at now? We're at about the 1,600 metre mark. So this is one of the most significant challenges that I've seen Perini make against Polyansky. For pretty much any recent regatta, isn't it?
Yeah, I think fantastic race we've got going on here with Perini making that move just coming up to the 500 to go. And now here we go. Polyansky's looking to come back at him, but they just keep pushing each other up and up here in this last 500.
Yeah, I think Polyansky's going to come through him, to be quite honest. The guy's got an amazing finish. I remember that sort of finish against, was it Eric Horry in Plovdiv back in 2018, where he came right back. I think he might have caught a crab, actually, and not got through Eric on that occasion. But it's a big difference there.
Yeah, that's almost a boat length now. In fact, Perini attempting to push his stern up onto the bow ball of Polyansky. Polyansky certainly not giving up as they're coming down to 200 metres to go. If you're Polyansky, I wonder if you keep something in the bag or if you try and sprint through and send a message to Perini.
Yeah, great question. Whether Polyansky does look for it and see if he can raise that stroke rate up. But as Sarah Cook has said, he's likely to be, he's on a tougher gearing. Be very hard for him to make a big change right now, and how much that would hurt him digging into the lactic acid deficit. But here we go. They're coming down towards the line. At the moment, it's still, I think it's about 3/4 of a boat length that Perini has over Polyansky.
Can we just keep a check on the third position, guys? Is it still Shumil Daniel in that qualifying position?
Yeah, it looks like Shumil Daniel is about 15 metres clear now of Sanchez, so should have a clear run through to the A final. But a brave start, as we said earlier, from Alexis Sanchez of France, I think, to put himself in the race. He knew he was in probably the tougher of the two semi-finals with the World Championship gold and silver medalists from last year. So I think a really well executed race, but unfortunately won't be enough for today as Shumil Daniel from Israel comes down to take that all-important third qualifying position into the A final.
So the first three go through. Polyansky, or Giacomo Perini we should mention first, as he won that race in 9 minutes and 18 seconds. Roman Polyansky, the world champion, in second place. Both of those men go through to Paris, as does Shumil Daniel, who took the third place, qualifies for the Paris Paralympics. So that was a decent race to start off with. And there he is, the third place sculler.
Yeah, Shumil Daniel might have been a little bit concerned when Alexis Sanchez went out and got a good little lead in front of him. As we said, it was a good tactic from Sanchez to try to get the bow in front.